It's a little bit more windy out here today. Bad weather, but not as bad as many children in Norway experience in contact with the childcare system. And in a small town of Norway called Naustdal, a family of 5 children is now the center of a worldwide demonstration due to the fact that the Norwegian Childcare took their 5 children into foster homes on the reason of mild spanking. However, research reported in the Telegraph 2010 and earlier show that mild spanking of children up to 6 years old actually is beneficial for their later achievement in school, and they have more optimistic lives than those never hit by parents. They were also more likely to undertake voluntary work and keener to attend university. Research has long shown that severe trauma and violence against children is very damaging for their development and later life. A lot of serious disorders are connected to such trauma early in life. And research shows that it is not the few serious traumas that is the most damaging, because children often get help in dealing with this. It is the enduring elevated stress that keeps the stress hormone high for a long time, and where the children don't get any help, that is most damaging to their development. Increased level of stress hormones like adrenaline, cortisol and norepinephrine over time damage nerve cells in the brain. A lot of different personality disorders are found to have their cause from these chronic heightened stress levels. Also, diabetes 1 seems to have a cause in the elevated level of cortisol. Children need a certain age adequate stress in order to develop the brain in a way suitable for handling later stress in life. They need the stress to develop the necessary nerve structures that later will handle stress. What seems to be the most important thing during stressful experience for children is the fact that they are able to handle the stress, either internally or with the help of their caregivers. Marjorie Gunnow, a professor of psychology at Calvin College in Grand Rapids, Michigan, showed there was insufficient evidence to deny parents the freedom to determine how their children should be punished. She said the claims made for not spanking children failed to hold up. They are not consistent with the data. The research questioned 179 teenagers about how often they were spanked as children and how old they were when they were last spanked. Their answers were then compared with information they gave about their behaviour that could have been affected by spanking. This included negative effects such as antisocial behaviour, early sexual activity, violence and depression, as well as positive such as academic success and ambitions. Teenagers who had been spanked by their parents from age 7 to 11 were also found to be more successful at school than those not spanked, but fared less well on some negative measures, such as getting involved in more fighting. However, youngsters who claimed they were still being spanked scored worse than every other group across all the categories. So there seems to be an age where spanking is no longer has positive effect. Maybe older children connect this with shame, while younger children connect this with fear. And another important factor is that parents are affectionate and sensitive to the child. After all, there is a very big difference between mild spanking and a fist in the face. Young children are in a learning process, and it seems very often learn faster with mild spanking than with words. This is probably because stressful situations are better remembered than not so stressful experiences. The alpha omega here is the parents' affection and sensitivity to the child, their ability to mirror the child's behavior and needs. Heinz Kohut, a leading psychotherapist, said in the last speech just before he died that the worst damage to children is what he called the absence of the mother. And he meant when her personality is absent and not physical absence. This lack of adequate mirroring is extremely damaging to children. And knowing this, one can ask the question if the childcare in the Naustdal case maybe has inflicted a far more serious trauma on these 5 children than the mild spanking they was exposed to by their parents. The 5 children were split in 3 different foster homes. And the research on foster children is not positive reading. International research shows clearly that they come worse out than children growing up even in risk families. What the Norwegian childcare don't seem to understand is that the separation from the child caregivers and separation among the siblings constitute a far greater trauma to children than the mild spanking. CPS is actually traumatizing 5 children for life due to mild spanking that the research long time ago also show is favorable for these 5 children. The child welfare industry seems to have a great challenge documenting positive effects of their methods, and an increasing number of people worldwide are protesting now against the obvious abuse by employees in this agency has committed for decades and still commit today. It affects thousands of children. They harm more children than they help, and they have no evidence that the methodology they have used for decades have a positive effect. On the contrary, it is obvious that they lack scientific evidence for their handling of children. The greatest damage children receive in their development is when the person who has custody of the child is the one that damaged the child, like in childcare situations. That's when disorganized attachment patterns evolve with its psychopathology. No wonder foster children have such a bad outcome in the CPS industry. And no matter what you think of mild spanking, one thing is for sure: children being separated from their biological family, threat to attachment, their feeling of loss and fear this create is far more worse and serious for their development than spanking from an affectionate parent. So I would encourage everyone to begin protest this child abuse that happens under cover of Norwegian childcare. Most children need their biological family.